quite a bit of a cold in this crazy heat of New York. I don't know how that happens.
1 minute.
Did you guys hear that? Lisa says it's air conditioning, and I love to think that it's air conditioning. I'm not sick. I'm not sick. Power of positive thinking.
Manifest, no sickness.
The air conditioning got me sick? Oh, Lisa, that's even worse. Oh, SML says I'm so very late. 30 seconds. 30 seconds to the show. Ben Pullian. Hey, glad you can hear us. And we read you loud and clear. Here we go. We are broadcasting from 30 Rock seconds. Tonight. 15 seconds. We're starting with the weather. Let's go. Get my last coughs out of the way.
9, 8,
Sorry.
7.
Have a good show, everybody.
Good show, 5, 7, 4, 3. Here we go.
Hey there, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight we start with a downpour of rain drenching the Gulf Coast where Tropical Storm Bertha made landfall just hours ago, and she came in hot with whipping winds, coastal flooding, and dangerous riptides. Just look at these massive waves. One Facebook user caught from an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico off the Texas coast. The rain still remains the biggest concern, with rainfall amounts expected to reach up to 6 inches in some areas, which means keeping an eye out for flash flooding, which is a similar weather woe for other parts of the country currently. Other states not being hit by Bertha, but are dealing with major flooding as well. Tennessee is getting soaked. Videos showing roads turning into rivers as cars try to drive through for some reason. And in West Virginia, one family's home camera capturing their shed being swept away in the floodwaters. All of it prompting local officials to get the message out, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
It doesn't take a major hurricane to do major damage in communities in Louisiana. So today's forecast is encouraging, but it doesn't mean that we should be complacent.
Now let's get right over to NBC's George Solis, who's in New Orleans. George, what's it looking like out there post-landfall?
Yeah, Gotti, we're actually about 2 hours from New Orleans. We're in Grand Isles, where you can see the wind still packing a punch, even though Bertha at this hour is starting to weaken. There's still some rain here, and that is what officials have been warning people about, to not let their guard down just because this storm was not the heavy rainmaker or had those strong gusts of wind. Although at some portions of the day, we did see some gusts that were easily in the 50s, 40s. We know New Orleans reported at least 30 mile-an-hour gusts at some parts of the day. The storm making landfall in St. Bernard Parish earlier this afternoon. And now what we're seeing again are just some of those remnants. But make no mistake, there are still tropical storm warnings. This storm still expected to stay a tropical storm as it makes a second landfall sometime tomorrow afternoon near Galveston, Texas. But again, these conditions, you would think that we're just getting started. But again, even as the storm pulls away, you can see the winds here are still very much ripping, Gotti.
Yeah, always somebody out there ripping waves, it looks like. There's some surfers there. I know that there were so many preparations that were going into making sure that everybody was going to be safe today. Did that go according to plan?
Yeah, early reports indicate that the flooding has been minimal, which is very good. Again, we've talked about how resilient and how prepared people in and around the New Orleans metro area are, because they have dealt with storms like this before. Their motto, of course, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And as it stands, it does appear that this did not deteriorate beyond what we're seeing right now. But again, some roadways out there still flooding. Emergency Operations Center still up and running, just to make sure that, again, some of those areas where the water may not recede, that the crews get out there as quickly as possible to drain any ditches or sewers or anything that may back up Power outages that we've seen also haven't really been a concern either. So again, by all accounts, the impacts have been minimal, maybe an inconvenience for sure, to say the least. But again, I'm just so floored by, at this point in the day, as we expected this to start to calm down, again, these winds certainly gusting here, Gotti.
Yeah, let's hope it stays relatively calm during the second landfall there and not as bad as people were expecting. George Solis, thank you. And let's head over to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns for more on where the storm is headed.
Gotti, we're continuing to watch Bertha moving through Louisiana, just to the south now of New Orleans. It's not doing any damage or anything like that, but we still have to watch the coastal areas closely. Rip currents, large waves, beach erosion, a big inconvenience for anyone that had vacation plans along the beaches over the last couple of days. But now we're going to be taking the storm through Louisiana tonight into Texas come tomorrow. So there's not a lot of rain with this. If whatever rain and thunderstorms we have is mostly to the south of the center of the storm. You can kind of see the center now, just south of Lake Pontchartrain here. It's barely a tropical storm. Winds are only at 45-mile-per-hour max, so we're not expecting any wind damage at all. And it's really hard to find much rain over land. I mean, these are far bands well outside of it over the areas of Mississippi, and that's just like typical afternoon rain anyways. The winds have been gusting occasionally, especially in the coastal areas. This is the predicted max wind gust through tonight and tomorrow. So the highest you're going to get in like Houma and New Orleans into the low 30s. So a good breeze. But if you get down here to the mouth of the Mississippi later tonight, this area is where we could possibly get wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour. It shouldn't do too much damage. This is an area that gets hit with a lot of high winds from big hurricanes very often. And then tomorrow, as we take the storm towards Beaumont, Port Arthur, Lake Charles, towards Galveston, we only expect 20, maybe 30 mile per hour wind gusts. The storm surge will be on the back side of the storm. So as the storm's pushing towards Texas, the wind comes out of the south behind it. And that's where you get, especially at high tide, water levels higher than they should be. Water is getting into places that it normally wouldn't at high tide. But this is a region of the country that gets storm surges frequently of 4 to 8 feet, and the huge storms higher than that. So this isn't doing any damage. Again, more of an inconvenience for some side roads. And as far as the warnings go, the biggest warnings continue all the way just south of Lake Charles. Areas of south of Houston towards Galveston, Brazosport, Port Arthur, and Beaumont, you're under a tropical storm watch. And here's the forecast from the Hurricane Center. Right along the coast as we go throughout the overnight hours. Tomorrow during the day, it heads for just south of Houston, and then it should die off by the time it gets over towards Victoria, Texas. The other thing we have to watch is some heavy rain developing late tonight. Watch out for flash flooding, southern portions of Virginia. I got my eyes on the Virginia Beach area, Norfolk, possibly down here to Raleigh, Elizabeth City. All of this region is under a flash flood watch. 14 million people. We're going to get training thunderstorms over the same areas. And you can see, Gotti, our computers are hinting really at eastern North Carolina for locally up to 5 inches of rain. So we'll monitor that through the rest of the night.
And turning now to the war in Iran, intensifying in new ways every day, and tonight is no different. The United States has just launched its 12th consecutive days of strikes, and those are some of the images that were coming in today, hours before President Trump was in attendance when the bodies of 4 U.S. soldiers were brought back to the United States in this dignified transfer, the third one that Trump has attended since the war in Iran started in February. But right before today's occasion, the president issuing a new threat. Anytime Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including in the capital city of Tehran. Here's how Secretary of State Marco Rubio broke it down earlier today.
Commercial ships are going through the straits and they're being blown up. The United States is defending that shipping and, in addition, is targeting the places that are launching against those ships to continue to degrade Iran's ability to target and harm global shipping. We remain open to diplomacy. We remain open to working it out in a negotiated way. But right now, they don't seem to be serious about that. And so we're going to continue to protect shipping.
And let's get over to NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cubie. Courtney, let's start with that very somber, dignified transfer earlier and what the president had to say. Let's listen.
They are indeed great heroes, actually. They said, and all of them said very strongly, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. So we're going to honor them. And one of the hardest things to do, for me, it's one of the hardest things to do as a president. But has to be done.
These 4 brings a total to 18 Americans killed, right? Do we know how many have been killed on all sides in this conflict so far?
Not at all. I mean, that's a fair question. Gotti, at this point, it's not really even clear how many Americans have been injured over the course of this war. We know, according to 2 U.S. officials, that more than 500 Americans have been injured. Now, many of those are traumatic brain injuries. So what that means is there will be a blast, perhaps like something like the one that killed those 3 Americans in Jordan last week, that could have follow-on effects on other individuals from the concussive effects of a blast. Or maybe if they hit their head, days or even weeks later, they could present with some symptoms. So it just really shows the human toll that we saw really on full display here in the dignified transfer at Dover, Gotti.
And what about Trump's new threat? It comes as we're seeing now 12 straight days of strikes, and it is the type of threat that we've heard in the past, and we've seen at least some bridges hit. Does this mean we're going to see a huge escalation here, or is this saber rattling?
So it's not 100% clear, because this could go 2 ways. Number one, President Trump could be absolutely right that the U.S. military has targets that include things like bridges. The military considers them to be dual use. So think of something like a bridge that is moving from an inland area that goes over to provide logistics and support, maybe personnel, to some of the coastal areas where the Iranian military, and specifically the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, are directly threatening commercial shipping. Now, that bridge could be considered a legal and lawful military target because it's directly supporting the military officials in doing something the U.S. is trying to stop or trying to counter. But if, in fact, the U.S. military were to go after other types of infrastructure that aren't so clearly dual use, then that absolutely would be an escalation. In the past 11 or 12 days, we actually already have seen the military go after some of these dual use infrastructure locations, Gotti.
Courtney Kuby, thank you. And now Trump says this whole war was to make sure that Iran never got a nuclear weapon, right? Well, today the United States signed a historic deal with Saudi Arabia to build its own civilian nuclear power program, one that could eventually let the kingdom enrich its own uranium. What this will look like is still unclear, but we know American companies are going to be building that program, and the deal could last decades. It's a potential game changer and a very controversial agreement. And here's how Secretary of State Marco Rubio answered the question that is on a lot of people's minds.
The U.S. is not going to reach any agreement with any country in the world that leads to the risk of proliferation.
And joining us now is Henry Sokolsky, the Executive Director of the Non-Proliferation Policy Education Center. Thank you so much for being with us. This deal potentially allows uranium enrichment. If the goal is to avoid nuclear proliferation, how is enriching uranium supposed to do that?
Do just the opposite. That's the problem. I mean, we are bombing Iran because it was enriching uranium and we couldn't tell if they were going to get a bomb. We are now in the midst of making a transfer and announcing that we may very well support another country making nuclear fuel. We say we have to do this because, well, some other countries might do it. But in fact, no other country has ever announced that it would support another country making nuclear fuel that didn't have nuclear weapons other than us. And so I think our example really runs the risk of being followed by, in fact, the very folks who are fearful that might do it. So that's one problem right there. And the problem of trying to check to see if this is going to be diverted or be used as a cover for other activities isn't just going to be challenging. I think it's not going to be all that feasible.
Just looking back in history, and I know we live in a very different day and age today, but wasn't it the United States that helped set up Iran's nuclear program in the 1950s before the revolution with an administration and a regime that was on friendly terms, and then all of a sudden the world changed?
Well, this is a point that others have made up on Capitol Hill today. And yeah, I mean, that's the problem. We want to make sure that our future doesn't rhyme with our past.
We've got a pretty complex relationship with Saudi Arabia, and clearly this adds another layer of complexity. And it looks like there's some coming together. But how would you characterize our relationship with Saudi Arabia right now?
Far less close than it was before the Khashoggi murder, which is the murder of a resident American. That was about 7 or so years ago. Maybe I got that wrong. Maybe it's 8. And now the Saudis are very wary because of this war and have been trying to hedge their bets by openly working with China in new ways. And so they're trying to hold on to us and get other options for security, working with Pakistan as well. So, we'll see. But I think it's probably not as good as it used to be. I mean, I'm not a Saudi expert, but I'm a Saudi, I guess, amateur, like we all are. But it doesn't look like it's better than it was.
You are an expert in non-proliferation. When it comes to guardrails, when it comes to the first thing that needs to happen to prevent proliferation, what are you hoping is implemented here in this deal?
I'll be honest, I'm a critic of this. And I think what Senator Rubio tried to do was to demand a vote in both houses to approve any kind of agreement that allowed anyone to make nuclear fuel that didn't have nuclear weapons. In particular, he passed or tried to certainly propose a law that would require it in the specific case of Saudi Arabia. Now, obviously, he's in a different place. I appreciate that. But I think we're in an awkward spot. Also, they're using a plan that Biden came up with, basically. And that seems odd. Biden did not follow through. Okay. But now we are. I think his hope was to get Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel in exchange for taking these risks. That's not on the table right now. And so this is sort of a raffle ticket on a raffle ticket for the critics, at least.
Yeah,
I think we're in for watching it to see what Congress makes of it.
We sure will. Henry, thank you. Really appreciate your perspective. Meanwhile, things got off to a heated start today in a hearing that could decide whether singer David is going to be standing trial for murder in Los Angeles. Our team was in court saying that the judge asked both the prosecution and the defense to stop at one point while the singer's financial manager took the stand. It comes as today's hearing put a major focus on David's finances, trying to show what was at stake for the TikTok star. Prosecutors say the singer killed and dismembered then 14-year-old Celeste Rivas after she had threatened to expose their relationship. Rivas's body was found in the front trunk of a Tesla registered to David at a Hollywood tow yard last year. Let's bring in NBC's Camila Bernal, who's been following it for us. Camila, yesterday, a lot of the focus seemed to be on those horrific, graphic photos. But today, it was about money, right?
Yeah, and I think what the prosecution was trying to get at here is motive, Gotti, because what they were trying to show through the business manager and through a music executive is the amount of money that David had already made. That was millions of dollars, and the amount of money that he was expected to make if he made that third and fourth album. In total, they said he could have made $19 million. Even the family attorney, the family of Celeste Rivas, saying they were shocked to learn how much money he was making and how much money he could have made if he continued on his path. So what prosecutors are trying to show is that he did not want to lose the money. He did not want to lose the fame, which is why when Celeste Rivas Hernandez told him essentially that she would expose the relationship, this was obviously a relationship with a child, then that was part of the motivation for her killing. So that was what they sort of brought up in terms of the economics, in terms of the financials, and a lot of people just shocked to learn how much money he would have stood to make, Gotti.
Yeah, definitely a surprise. Do we know what other evidence could be introduced here?
Yeah, look, and in addition to the financial stuff today, we actually also heard from forensics experts, and we also saw more photos. These experts not only looked at the car, but also the garage, and key here was the luminol test. not just in the car, but in the garage, it lit up with blood, right? And so we're seeing more pictures of all of this. We're seeing the evidence of the inflatable pool, and prosecutors here pointing out that the inflatable pool had cuts in it, that they didn't match up, that it appeared that he actually put that inflatable pool in the washer machine because it had laundry sheets. It smelled like it had been washed. So they're trying to get at all of this cover up as well, even though it doesn't appear that he did a good job if he did in fact do this, because of course these forensic experts pointing out all of the things that they found essentially. So possibly his mistakes if he did do this, Gotti.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot to watch for if this does head to trial. But again, the mountain of evidence is pretty interesting. Camila Bernal, thank you so much. And tonight, an independent autopsy of 18-year-old Nolan Wells has been released by his lawyers, but big questions still remain on how he died. The doctor who performed the autopsy says the report could not rule out foul play. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist has more.
Tonight, newly released autopsy results are raising more questions about how Nolan Wells died. An independent exam commissioned by his family's legal team classified the cause and manner of death for the 18-year-old as undetermined pending investigation.
He's saying based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant.
The forensic pathologist wrote there were no fractures, cuts, or bruises on Nolan's body, but noted red discoloration was found on the back of his head and needs more investigation. The autopsy was performed 4 days after his body was found. The pathologist also writing there were missing parts of the neck.
Have you or he asked anyone for access to those things?
Hopefully that the medical examiner will allow him to come and examine the throat, also to talk about observations that they had, and so they could share information.
It is not unusual for a state medical examiner to keep parts for further evaluation. Former medical examiner Dr. Priya Banerjee reviewed the autopsy report.
I think the best thing we can take away is that there's no identifiable trauma.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is still investigating what happened after Nolan went to Horn Island in a boat with friends on July 4th. His body was found 2 days later washed ashore there. Today, the family's attorney noted the doctor was unable to examine the airways and lungs for water to determine drowning. In a recent interview, Warren Hudson says he'd been friends with Nolan since they were kids. Hudson said they frequently went boating, and they went to Horn Island with a large group of friends on July 4th.
Everybody's drinking, it's 4th of July. Everyone's just trying to enjoy themselves.
Yo, Chris, thank you. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, a police officer shooting leaves one person dead. The incident caught on camera. What we're learning about what happened here. Plus, a look inside a robotics company in San Francisco that is building a new generation of robots. Some that could be used in warfare. More on that later this hour. And also, see this QR code? Well, you can scan through with your phone. You can chat with us live. You can let us know your thoughts about the news, about whatever is happening in your community. Just come join us. It's happening right now. YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. Come on in. Yo, Stream, I was talking about you guys. How's it going? Okay. Oh, it's Braska. Hello, Braska. Hello, Kimmy. Hello, Chef Like. I'm just gonna not read those comments for a second and see who's in here. Hello, Peace Bucks. Hello, CIA. Hello, Roki. Hello, Susie Snork. Hello, Inknoid Robot. This is great. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the news. As you can tell, things are not going great in this world, but
45.
There's some pretty cool stuff coming up. Some very cool stuff coming up. Like, I don't know, a building block of life smashing into somebody's bedroom from a galaxy far, far away. Is it our rock ancestor? Is that how life started here on Earth? We don't know. That conversation's coming up. I'm very excited about it. Honorable traits? Interesting.
15 seconds.
Robert, good to see you. Okay, going back into the show. Let's go. Got to lock in.
6, 5, 4.
There's Lisa. Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines that we are watching tonight. The criminal trial of Venezuela's ousted President Nicolas Maduro is now scheduled to start next June. A federal judge set the date after a New York hearing. Maduro and his wife face drug trafficking charges, and the couple have been held at a Brooklyn jail since U.S. forces captured them in Caracas earlier this year. They have both pleaded not guilty. And a manhunt is underway for a murder suspect in Florida. U.S. Marshals boosted the reward to $16,000 for information leading to the arrest of Isabel Rose Johnson. She's wanted in the murder of a 43-year-old man whose remains were found in a shallow grave. Officials say she is considered armed and dangerous, and may have changed her appearance to try to evade authorities. And a hospital in Southern California was placed under lockdown earlier after a man with, you see it right there, it looks like a machete, was shot by police. Officials initially noticed the man driving erratically in Long Beach. They chased him to the hospital in Irvine, where witness video shows a man swinging the machete in front of the building. Police opened fire after negotiators could not convince the suspect to surrender. He's currently in critical condition. And a social media slip-up is sparking speculation about where LeBron James is going to be playing in the next NBA season. The Miami Heat briefly posted a link to what appeared to be a scheduled introductory press conference for LeBron before quickly deleting it. Team officials think the link was made only in preparation for the possibility of signing LeBron, and that no decision has been made. And the Louvre is reopening the Apollo Gallery 9 months after that shocking museum robberies. That gallery, home to the French crown jewels, is finally open again to visitors after going through some extensive security upgrades. Investigators are still looking for whoever was responsible for the jewel heist. No arrests have been made. And now to some breaking news out of Madison, Wisconsin. A man has died after a police officer shot him while trying to take him into custody. We do want to warn you that the video we're about to show you is disturbing. Those were gunshots that you just heard, and here you can see the aftermath. The man who was shot is still on the ground. 4 police officers involved have been placed on administrative leave. Let's get straight out to NBC's Maggie Vespa. So Maggie, I mean, that video, we see what happens from a bit away, but what do we know?
Well, Gotti, officers say basically that they were in the area on a report of a man who was stealing bikes and trying to break into cars. When they came across him, we'll pull that first video back up. A man on a bicycle. You see first the black police SUV come into frame, and then you see him ride his bike into frame. This is at the busy intersection. So here it is in Madison, Wisconsin. And again, this is just a few hours ago, so it's broad daylight, busy intersection in this major city. And 3 officers get out of the SUV. In the end, there's 4 you can see there. That struggle ensues. And then police say that the man during that struggle pulled out a switchblade, and they released a photo of that switchblade, if we can pull that up, saying that this knife was pulled out by the man who they say, you can see it there, used it to wound one of the officers. And they say it's the officer who was wounded that then fired his weapon. And they say, and they wanted to be clear about this, that according to Madison police, only 1 officer fired of the 4. And they say before that even happened, the officers tried to use less lethal methods, meaning tasers, to subdue him. Now, again, you hear 3 gunshots in that video. If we can pull the angles back up, you can see, again, multiple cameras were rolling as this entire thing goes down. You hear those 3 shots. That's the end of the struggle. They say the man died at the hospital, but you just hear, Gotti, like shock and agony kind of personified around them. People screaming, saying, oh my God, you killed him. And just, you know, another American city where videos like this show how quickly these things can escalate out of control.
Yeah, and I understand that there are some protests that are happening out there as well. I think we just got some video in. If we have that, what is the community reaction right now?
Well, it's just beginning, as you can imagine. These videos, and there's the crowds gathering there at the scene, are being posted. And you're right. I mean, this is galvanizing incredibly fast. You talked about the officers being placed on leave. It's important to note no names have been released at this point. We don't know the name of the man who was killed. We don't know the name of the officer who fired or any of the other 3 who were there on the ground with him at the time. And again, police saying they're all been placed on leave while the investigation gets underway into this. But obviously, with those videos being posted on social media, everybody's seeing it, right? And crowds like this are gathering incredibly fast. And police have said that they've seen the videos themselves. Those are part of their investigation. Typically, as you know, outside agencies come in to handle these investigations. So it's not Madison PD investigating Madison PD. In the very early hours, we're waiting on those details. But you're right, a lot of anger in that city tonight. Gotti.
Thank you so much. And coming up, scientists, they think a meteorite that crashed into Earth 2 years ago might hold what they are calling building blocks of life. More ahead, so stay tuned.
Who's around here? Did you see this? Lisa?
What happened?
Fake news. If you call the mainstream media fake news, wait, oh, people do like to say that a lot. No. Hi, Bear Dog. This is our news show on NBC News. Welcome to the stream. And we do a lot of news here. We went through most of the biggest stories of the day, and now we're going to be talking about the most interesting stories of the day. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Yeah, go ahead, Lise. Yeniskins, hold on, let me see how Yeniskins, hold on, Yeniskins. Oh, but it says Jeniskins, okay. Okay. Uh-oh. Thank you so much. You just saved me. Okay, perfect. Anyway, Boston, thank you so much. Mazzy, interesting. Antoinette, hello. How's it going? Burke? No, I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling pretty horrible. Lobato Cat? Oh, Lobato Cat's here. 15 seconds. Always cold into 6. Great to see you. 15 seconds. Here we go. Yeah, that switchblade did not look like a switchblade, I guess. And tonight, in the future of everything, imagine just chilling at home, then hearing a big bang from your bedroom, and then you go in there and you find one of the most consequential scientific pieces of rock that have ever fallen from the heavens and made a mess inside of your house. That's what happened about 2 years ago at a New Jersey home. As you can see in that video there, that's not a UAP, that is a meteorite. And luckily for science, the homeowners immediately and carefully preserved some of the meteorite's fragments. Now, fast forward to now, when the SETI Institute published their findings on the meteorite, saying that it holds prebiotic molecules and other building blocks of life, and they are calling it alien world chemistry. Let's bring in the lead author of that study, Dr. Peter Yeniskins. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so do we know where, and more importantly, do we know when this meteorite might have come from?
Yeah, so the journey of a meteorite doesn't end when it hits the Earth. It's sort of the beginning. You get to look at it, you get to study it, and then you get to sort of figure out how it formed, where it came from. And this meteorite, had the whole story. The most cool thing about this rock was that it's a primitive type of meteorite. It looks very dark. When the rock hit the roof, it just shattered into pieces, literally exploded. It covered the whole room in black fragments and whatnot. We are very fortunate that the fragments were very nicely preserved. And when we finally got a chance to look at it, we found that it tells a story about the type of rocks that brought our water, our organic matter, the stuff that life is made of. This is the type of meteorite that formed just past the orbit of Jupiter. So here on the third rock by the sun, it was very dry. All this water and organics had to come late, had to come from impacts many years ago. And it did mostly from rocks coming from just past Jupiter, like this one. And when we look at this rock, we found that it sampled the sort of surface area of those objects. So it was not just the rock itself, it was really very near the surface because we found little bits in it that contained 10 times the normal level of sodium. You know, salt. It's an indication of brine. So there was like New York City in the winter when you try to melt the snow, there was brine in the water. And that created a very interesting blend of chemistry.
Oh, it's a soup.
We also noticed that this rock was incredibly pulverized, all little bits and pieces stacked on top of each other. And the rock as a whole had this very interesting chemistry, sort of, what happens near the surface of an asteroid. So this was all just, a first sort of window we ever had in this part of this type of objects. And so, we're very excited.
No, I mean, when you sit back and you really think about it, I mean, is this the kind of thing that might have brought life to Earth in the first place? Like, are we looking at what could have been like our great-great-great-great-great-grandfather rock? Like, is this where
in a
we
way.
all
So
came
don't
from?
think of it. Yeah, exactly. Don't think of it as bringing, life itself, because the Earth was a perfectly fine place to have life started, much better than this rock, this little world where this came from. Think of it as all this water and this organics was being brought in, and that set a stage, if you like, for all those processes to start and make our evolution possible. So yeah, it's an amazing story.
Incredible. We are all tiny specks of dust in this vast, vast universe. And really appreciate your insight into all this. Doctor, thank you so much. And President John F. Kennedy said that mankind must put an end to war before war puts an end to mankind, right? But what if we fought wars without men or women or any kind of human soldiers, and instead the war was fought entirely with robots? I know that sounds weird, and yet one company in San Francisco already has a Pentagon contract, and they're talking about building that kind of future. Check this out.
In the heart of San Francisco, another AI robotics company. But this company, Foundation Robotics, is different for one very important reason.
Police!
You guys are some of the first in saying that, these things will be used as soldiers.
We think it's actually quite crazy that other people are not doing it. That is an issue specifically in the Western world. There are spokespeople from the Chinese Communist Party who are saying that you're not going to beat us on defense and robotics. We would deploy AI weaponized weapons faster than you will. If nobody was doing it, that would be one thing. But you can't just have one side do it.
Sankeet Pathak is Foundation's CEO. He says their plan is to build robots capable of anything a human can do, including building and operating new cities on Earth, the Moon, and Mars. But when it comes to defense and the possibility of robot soldiers...
Are you planning on arming these types of robots with the types of weapons that soldiers use?
Yeah, eventually that is the goal.
I've been around a lot of robots, and yet the idea of a robot with a gun. Why do you guys think that's a good idea?
All of the compunctions that people have, which are very fair, which is what if you end up hurting civilians? We already have weapons that do that. Drones do that disproportionately because they're not precise weapons. They essentially go and bulldoze an entire building down. If you want war to be more fair and more precise, you need land-based autonomy. There's just no two ways to it.
2 of these were already sent to Ukraine, right?
We sent 2 robots to Ukraine. They were more so for logistical work, but we're not afraid of doing the weaponized work. We think actually there are lots of scenarios where it's quite detrimental if you don't do. A really good example of that is Ukraine. Like if you actually were able to send a lot of robots onto the front lines, I think the outcome of the war would be significantly different.
But on the front lines of Ukraine, the bounds of AI being used to kill have already been crossed. For now, human oversight is still needed. But at Foundation, technical solutions to that problem are being considered.
You're going to have some small scenarios where the reaction times need to be so fast, not because it would destroy the robot, but because it would hurt the civilians if it's not.
It sounds like in certain cases, you're okay with the use of autonomous action in that kill chain.
So you're going to have robots that have the potential of doing good things for humanity, and you're going to have robots that have potentials of doing bad things for humanity. We don't think the line in the sand is as simple as weaponized, not weaponized, autonomous, not autonomous. It's significantly more nuanced, and it's a lot of hard work. And our goal is to try to balance that and walk through it.
Do you have internal guardrails that you are not willing to cross?
For us, the principle is on net, do we think the technology is doing good or not? And if there are use cases where we think there's going to be hard to do more good than bad, we would just shy away from doing them.
The company isn't talking about how much they've raised or their valuation, but its chief strategy advisor is Eric Trump, and Foundation has been granted a $24 million Pentagon contract to test Phantom with human Marines.
You bring in AI autonomy, it's going to change industry, it's going to change military application, it's going to change hospitality. The uses are unlimited, and I think it's a very beautiful thing.
After the deal was announced, Senator Elizabeth Warren posted on X, "Is the Pentagon just a cash machine for Trump's kids now? This looks like corruption in plain sight."
Have you had direct discussions with members of the Trump family on how these robots should be used?
We've had discussions with Eric, since he's an advisor to the company, about the strategy and the direction. Eric's not really involved on the contract discussions, negotiations. We want to win them on merit. We think that's the right thing for America. So whenever we're doing those, we just do them ourselves.
For now, the company says the vast majority of their revenue comes from non-government contracts for things like auto assembly lines, and the robots they're making, they say, will help humans. But the ethical implications of a fully capable humanoid robot have yet to be seen.
We're standing next to Phantom here. On one hand, you're saying you're building this to make life better, but you're also building this to be able to kill life if it is a threat.
I mean, my long-term goal with Foundation is we have this opportunity in our hands where AI and autonomy and robots can do all the rough, tumble, hard jobs that today are constraints for us. And I think if we create that future, everyone's going to have a house. Everyone's going to have really good food. Everyone's going to have free education. Everyone's going to have good health care. Anytime you build a great city, you have to be able to defend it. So in the long term, that's the goal for Foundation. That's what we really want to do. And defense is a crucial skill to learn. Like, we cannot be naive about it and think that it's not an important skill to learn. If that's the future we want to create, the very first thing that's going to happen when you create that future is people are going to try to invade it and pillage it.
A lot to think about there. And coming up, an AI-generated film is getting the box office treatment. We are talking to the filmmaker who got his start sharing AI movies online. Okay, guys,
that was
wild, huh?
That
is Foundation. Don't forget about that company. One to watch. Winning Things won on merit. Yeah. Hey, welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, you know how we've been EMP blast at the robot army? Let's see. Oh, you rolled a 3. Sorry, Peace Bucks. Not looking great. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, it's a very weird time, and I don't know which way the future is going. Whether we're looking at a utopia or a dystopia. I'm hoping for my kids that we're going to figure things out, but we're going to keep doing stories like that because we hope that, like, you know, you just think about it for yourself. There's a lot going on in the world, and really appreciate you guys taking the time to come hang out with us every single day. We will see you back here tomorrow. I got to go shoot something else, but the rest of the show is going to continue right now. So stay tuned, stay watching. Dismal Future Cat, no, we got to believe that it might be okay. I refuse. Gonna try to have a, optimistic outlook here. Lobato, thank you so much. Roll for shielding strength, a 4. I mean, okay. Yes, I actually agree. Monty Painting 704, like, at least he was honest. I absolutely agree. So often we hear CEOs kind of beat around the bush. Like, he was like, no, this is actually, this is what we're thinking about doing, and we've thought about it, and we're going to do it until, you know, we see what happens. So appreciate the heads up, and we'll see how it plays out. Gosh, got to go. Just joined us a first timer here, Denise from Connecticut. Hey, Denise, please come back. We're here from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock on the West Coast to 6 o'clock. SML, thank you. I hope we are on time tomorrow. Yorkie, thank you for stopping by. And peace, Bucks. We will. We'll feel better soon. Thanks, Antoinette. Hasta, guys. Keep watching, though. How about that? Is that better? Very tiny on the left side. Trippin' 33, do you ever answer TikTok people? Yes, all the
Gotti
time.
said-
All the time. But anyway, the show is still going. Wait, where did the full show go? Something like that would cost a big studio to go from a creative brain to AI to then the big screen. But that's the thing. Like, you look at some of these images and you see some of these scenes that just stick with you for a day after you've seen them, and you feel a certain kind of way. And I don't know why. Is it because it's written by a human? Is it because AI has gotten so good? That is a question we've been asking ever since we saw Gossip Goblin's first projects. And here with some answers, hopefully, on where this is all headed is Gossip Goblin himself, Zach London. Good to see you, Zach. And joining us on set is CEO of the company backing it, Fable, Edward Saatchi, working on the film's distribution. Zach, first off, people hear AI, and a lot of them are going to assume, oh, yeah, you just clicked a few buttons, you hit generate, and then boom, there's a movie. Take us through all the things that went into making this feature film.
Sure. Well, and also good to see you again. Another nice 2 a.m. reunion between the two of us. But yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, there's clearly kind of a misconception that I have a giant box in my living room and I just go and ask it for a movie and it dispenses a fully cooked film. When in reality, you know, the trailer that you're showing here on screen for the film that we released today, Pomegranate, you know, that was a 3.5-4 month undertaking with a full team of creatives. So that includes, you know, animators, visual designers. I wrote and directed it. We had voice actors for all the characters, a Foley artist for the sound effects. We went through 3 different musicians to score the film, and then a whole post-production team to edit it together, color grade it, sound mix it, and kind of, you know, yield the finished result that, you know, we see a glimpse of here. So I'd say, you know, it's obviously, it's not the same as, you know, traditional filmmaking or CGI, but I would not by any means say that it's automatic or easy.
No.
And I hope that the results speak for themselves, that it's, you know, there's not a lot of people that can kind of pull this off. And there is definitely quite a bit of craft involved, even if it's a different medium, so it's a different kind of craft.
I would encourage anybody to go check out what's out there on Pomegranate. I mean, again, the image of that creature, you know, I imagine is some sort of white whale, but the creature that comes out of the sea, incredible. It is incredible, and I know it's AI generated. Edward, there's something about Gossip Goblin, about Zach's work, that seems to transcend beyond the AI, and yet this is still AI. You're the guy that has to go to movie theaters and be like, hey, I have an idea. AI film on your screen. Like, are you down for maybe a big showing or possibly people picketing in front of the theater?
I think a year ago it would have been difficult, but looking at Zach's work, the people that we're talking to, the theater owners that we're talking to, they just can't argue that it's moving. That audiences go on a journey when they see it, and they cry or they laugh. They're actually having the cinematic journey that people want. And even more so since January, when a YouTuber, Markiplier, put out Iron Lung, now Obsession and Backrooms, I think people are more open to the idea of internet IP. And Zach has, been an incredible YouTube filmmaker as much as an AI filmmaker. So we're just excited for audiences to see it and judge it on the most important term possible. Is it a great work of art? And we think it is.
Yeah, and Zach, speaking of YouTube, I mean, I think the last time we talked at 2 in the morning, you didn't have that thing behind you on the wall on your incredibly decorated background, if you will. You always bring us such incredible visuals in your films, but it looks like you got some YouTube hardware hanging back there. We've had...
I do. What a good... Yeah, is that conspicuous just because my room is so sparse otherwise?
Yeah.
It's an interim office transitioning into a baby's nursery.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Maybe we'll keep the YouTube placard just in case.
Just to remind them, hey,
her.
this is what Dad was up to when you were coming into the world. But YouTube's having like a pretty crazy year at the box office, at least, right? And, you know, is it because these YouTubers are bringing an audience in that is already built in, or is it because we're seeing storytelling in a different way?
I think it's both, right? I mean, yeah, there's built-in audiences, obviously, and fan bases, and you know, it's not just the subscribers, but people who are like peripherally aware of it. And obviously, there's a lot of great examples from this year. But then I also think, just in general, like, you know, there are so many phenomenal storytellers in the world, and not all of them have the ability to kind of run the traditional gauntlet to have their work show up on a big screen, or might not even be so inclined to do that. And obviously, YouTube is a lower barrier to entry, and in a way, it's kind of more democratizing. It's like, okay, do people, you know, feel so inclined to spend 30 minutes of their day watching what you put out there? And so I think, you know, coupled with like pre-existing audiences and having a broader pool of fresh ideas to pull from, it totally makes sense that, you know, Hollywood's now directing its gaze at YouTube, where there's just like an abundance of really phenomenal storytellers.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm going to miss when I see your film in the theaters is the comment section. I got to say, like, your comment section reads very much like a community through all of your films. So that is something that, that theaters have to figure out how to do. And I guess that's just like turning to the person next to you and being like, wow, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think having Zach's going to face, you know, the pressure of being the first AI film actually in cinemas. And so that's why it's so important that he's someone who's a great writer, who's someone who can actually get great performances out of these AI actors and voice actors, human voice actors that he works with. And we're really excited about, you know, the movie with a Metacritic score with Rotten Tomatoes. You know, the first trailer, you know, imagine a month from now when the first trailer comes out before a movie, people turning to each other and saying, whoa, what was that? That's so cool. What is that?
Wait, hold on. Let me just let that sink in. So there's going to be previews in the full-on theater. People are going to be eating their popcorn, and then they're going to say, coming soon, and then we're going to see that preview.
Yeah, and it's not going to say AI. It's just going to say, do you want to see this? Doesn't this look crazy? Doesn't this look moving and interesting? So we're going to do it all and actually treat it like a work of art, which is what it is.
Oh, wow. And Zach, real fast, before I let you go, how do you describe this movie?
So without giving too much away or talking it too much, so it's a sci-fi anthology kind of set in this world that we've been establishing for over a year and a half now. And the whole premise is, you know, this is a kind of sci-fi kind of alternate universe where consciousness can just be easily swapped between bodies. Memories can be bought and sold. You know, you can experience whole lifetimes in a flash. Basically, we've kind of solved mortality. And so these stories kind of follow different characters in this world, both like the victims of this technology and the beneficiaries of it. But the real premise of it is like, you know, at its core, we're still human. You know, technology obviously has changed the way we look, the way we behave, but our hungers, our desires, they're still human. In reality, it's the limits to those desires that have been basically removed, you know. Any limit to the body or to memory or identity has been lifted, and then kind of, you know, taking that to the extreme.
Yeah, it sure seems like we're seeing some version of that play out in real life. Zach, Edward, really appreciate you guys being here. Can't wait to see this film. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And still to come, what do you get when you mix binging your favorite TV show with doom scrolling? Well, apparently it's something called popcorn brain, and it is more common than you think. We're going to explain that. But first, you got to see this wild video out of Missouri. A police pursuit led deputies onto a local bridge, and the suspect decided the fastest way out was, I don't know, over it with a swan dive and a surprisingly fantastic form there. He went right over the edge of the bridge. He did not get away, though. He was taken into custody downstream a little later. Like, don't worry about him too bad there. He's smiling. He's not seriously hurt, and we'll be right back. Finally tonight, we all know that too much screen time is a bad thing, right? Which is why you might have felt, I don't know, scatterbrained or unable to focus after doom scrolling for hours. Well, you are not alone, and what you might be experiencing is something that people are calling popcorn brain. Think of it like when you sit down to watch a movie but get sucked in to whatever Instagram reels pop up on your phone. It's described as that like tendency for your thoughts to jump from one to another with limited attention, increased distraction. So who's most susceptible to this syndrome, and is there a way to, I don't know, unpop the kernels? I guess there's not. That's an imperfect analogy there, but let's bring in the one and only Dr. Akshay Syal to talk more about this. I mean, all of that, it sounds very familiar to us ADHDers, right? Is this just everybody getting on my like dopamine
of truth, and I'll see myself out. Yeah.
There we go. That was a good one.
No, there is some overlap, Gotti, between the symptoms of ADHD and popcorn brain. And so popcorn brain was first described in 2011. It's by a researcher who's sort of noticing that our attention spans are all over the place with sort of all the stimulation we have in our lives. ADHD is a recognized. It's a full day long of tests. It's pretty. It's been around for a while. Popcorn brain is relatively new, and it's sort of the idea is with all these distractions and stimulations in our brain, think of it like, your phone is dinging with an Instagram notification, and then you're simultaneously watching Netflix, and then somebody FaceTimes you. It's just a lot of things going on at once, and your brain, sort of like a little kernel, is popping back and forth between the things.
Interesting. I mean, as somebody that has grown up with ADHD, like I know that a lot of it has to and do all that. Is that what's happening with this too, or are the receptors around the same size? Like, is this a technological thing?
We don't have the level of research that we do with ADHD, the full body of brain scans and everything to sort of give you that like molecular, this is exactly what's happening in popcorn brain. But what I think is so interesting is that when you compare the symptoms of ADHD and you compare them with this, yes, there is some overlap. So if people are noticing that they're having trouble, focusing on one thing and they're getting a notification here, a good test to do would be to put your phone in another room, leave the phone in the other room, come back to this room and see that urge. Do you have the urge to go grab it? Right? Can you just not sit still like, oh, I got to see what my Instagram likes look like. I got to see what's going on in WhatsApp, my messages. If you're having that much trouble focusing, it is absolutely worth talking to your doctor about it. It's called a neuropsych test. I'm sure you took one to get diagnosed with ADHD. Oh, yeah. It's an 8-hour test.
Yeah, they gave me a button thing. I remember I was like a little kid and they gave me a button thing and they're like, only touch it when you hear a sound. And I was like, I heard it then. They're like, you hit it 90 times and you made a sound twice. The one thing that I think is really interesting about this, like obviously with my brain, I've had to figure out how to navigate this world, and it is what it is. But with popcorn brain, can you like reel it back? Can you go back to training your brain to work the way it's supposed to work in the natural world without these screens?
Yeah, so that's the goal, and really, screen time is a complicated issue because so much of what we do now is on a screen. When I was in med school, my screen time was through the roof. It doesn't necessarily mean that's bad screen time. We have a graphic here from the American Academy of Pediatrics, sort of highlighting by age group how much time people are spending on screens, and you can see sort of starting at age 0 to 2. I mean, 1 hour and 3 minutes per day. Certainly, I wasn't spending that much of that age back when I was that age. Adults now 6 hours and 40 minutes. It's a nuanced topic. You don't want to say just flat out put the phone down because you may need it to do things. It depends what you're doing on the phone, but just be mindful of what it is you're doing. And a lot of the tech companies like Apple, for example, has a screen time feature, and they literally alert you to block certain apps and say, hey, put this thing down. Tim Cook has talked about this. He's like, we don't want you to be on our devices all day, all the time. They're not meant to be like that. So while yes, screen time is complicated, if you find yourself constantly popcorning all over the place, definitely look at the breakdown of which apps you're spending and if you really need to be doing all of those things at once.
Yeah, mindfulness seems to be a great antidote to so many different things. Dr. Akshay, thank you so very much. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now.